How you guys doing out there? It's Miguel from Singing Tree Flutes. So today I wanted to do a Sunday spiritual talk, and I wanted to talk a bit about my take on cultural appropriation and also different approaches to understanding different cultures. Okay, so I want to say that this is probably mostly addressed. I mean, of course, anybody can listen to this and get something from it. It's mostly addressed towards mainstream America, I would say, because here we are in America now, and this has been a hot topic for years now, is cultural appropriation. And it's all coming from a good place. It's all coming from how do we evolve and move forward with more respect for people of other cultures, to honor them, honor their, their where they come from, honor their culture, you know what I mean, and have respect for their culture. And so, very touchy subject, very, not super easy to navigate in some of this. Maybe the best place to start to open this conversation up about cultural appropriation is what questions have come at me. So first thing, let's talk about these things right here, these dreadlocks. I've had these. The last time I cut my hair was my 21st, no, was it my 20th? My 20th birthday. I've heard people say it's cultural appropriating if you're not black and you have dreads, okay? And so I have to say that's a complete misnomer. Every culture from around the world has had dreads. European cultures, Celtic cultures, African cultures, Native American cultures. I can be specific and say that some Cree people up in, the northern Midwest and into Canada had dreadlocks. You could find this even like 1800s pictures. Baby Jack Cree, if you just Google that on your phone, Baby Jack Cree is this guy who they have images of, black and white images from the 1800s with dreadlocks, not looking much different than mine. Shoshone pretty much all had dreadlocks. The Havasupai still have dreadlocks, had dreadlocks. Several other tribes actually wore their hair in that way, and then also it was an individual choice, you know what I mean, to have dreadlocks. And so, complete misnomer. So, you know, I bring that one up specifically to say, make sure if you're one of those people out there, and this is like a semi-plea, anybody who's younger out there and is trying to be more spiritually evolved and also being a crusader to the world of what's right and wrong, please be careful. Please be educated with what you're getting angry with people at. And we have to remember, you know, especially in the spiritual circles, okay? We're here trying to evolve, right? And when we're talking about learning to respect other cultures, honor other cultures, lift and even defend other cultures, you know, we have to also remember, we can't forget about our basic teachings, right? And so here I'm talking about any spiritual teachings really, but let's talk about indigenous teachings. That's another subject. I, being only part native, you know, from Puerto Rico, practice native ceremonies and also have been asked to help with them. Me growing up, identifying as Puerto Rican, and in that, you know, there's African, Native American, and Iberian Peninsula, typically Spanish. And so that's most all Native Puerto Ricans have those three bloods in there and different percentages of that. And then, of course, as a Puerto Rican or Boricua, we identify as kind of a sub-tribe of its own, where I practice many different native ceremonies and also lead and or host them. One thing that I don't do, which is again part of our culture, I don't make a business out of it. This is all you know, volunteer work. That's the mainstream way of saying that. In our practices, in the practices, let's call it Plains Native American practices, charging money for ceremonies is crossing the line of what they would call cultural appropriation. But practicing the ceremonies, if you're from different cultures, I'm going to say, I can't speak for everybody, but I'm going to speak for my elders, my teachers, okay? It's their dream. You know, we have these ceremonies. We have one of the ceremonies that I lead is called a thirsty dance, right? And some people know that as what they call a sun dance. And, you know, I never asked for that. I was asked to carry that. And most of the people who I know who also carry that dance are Ojibwe. But there are others as well, including myself. And none of them asked for it. None of them are like, oh, I'm gonna do this and that and this and that, and then I'm gonna be this person. It's not about that. It's about humility. It's about service, okay? And what I know about the people I hang out with and the people who have since passed away and my elders that are still alive, it is their dream. It is their desire that people benefit from their practices. And so this thing being passed to me, Francis Cree was a really well-known and highly respected elder amongst the Ojibwe people and all of the plains, any of these elder meetings and circles. He was a really well-known speaker, and his wife, Rose Cree, and spiritual leader. And he was highly respected, and he really brought unity amongst the people. One of his wishes was that this thirsty dance, that all 4 nations would come to his ceremony. It happened a couple of times while he was alive where the yellow man, red man, white man, and black man all were together having unity. That was his greatest joy. These are teachings that he tries to share. And in the midst of this generational trauma, not everybody has the ability to want to hear it. But I know this for a fact that not only in some of these indigenous cultures, these Native American cultures, in Middle Eastern cultures and South American cultures, people want to share their medicine. They believe that the things that they have to share will help heal the world. And they're not trying to say, this is mine and don't touch it. That's not even a thing. So one of the things that we will know is that in all of those circles, somebody is going to be upset about what you're doing, because the world is hurting. People are hurting. People are still healing from their traumas, including us. And it's arguable that the way that mainstream America, our lives have gone down, that there's a ton of trauma buried in there. You know what I mean? So nobody is free from that. However, I really am putting a plea out there to the younger folks, right? Or to people who feel like it's their duty, so to speak, to call out people for the choices that they're making. I'll tell you, our teachings, our indigenous teachings, are humility, love, unity, respect, and faith. And if I'm out policing everybody and yelling at everybody and telling them you're messed up and you're wrong and putting my nose in places where it doesn't belong, that's not at least in the culture that I practice, that's not traditional, and that's not even the wishes of the elders. And so I guess what I'm saying is, make sure, if you feel the need to be one of the people that feel the need to be a crusader, to stand up for this, and again, if I'm addressing mainstream America or white people who are telling other people that they're cultural appropriating other people's cultures, that's like, it's a touchy subject, and please be very educated if you're going to do that. I suggest that, it might not be your place to do that. However, all of these people, we have to remember this. Everything came from somewhere. Every musical instrument that we played, which I'll get to that too, because I make Native American style flutes. That's a whole nother thing. Every musical instrument we play came from a culture. Does that mean that one culture is supposed to be the only culture that plays that? That means guitars wouldn't be a thing. That means banjos wouldn't be a thing. That means, we could go on and on and on. It's just really, really important to know what you're talking about. Ask questions. If you see somebody and it's triggering you, right? Before you were like, hey man, and lash out, what that's showing probably is it's reflecting your own pain and what you're carrying inside, and that your need or your desire that you're hurting for some reason or some way, and something that you see in somebody else immediately triggers you to an anger response. Something's up there. There's a little bit of work to be done there. Okay, and so but to educate ourselves, ask questions. Oh, you do that? Oh, what? Oh, where did you do that? Could you tell me more about that? Who taught you how to make flutes? You know what I mean? You do these sweat lodges, or, could be anything. Oh, you have a Middle Eastern spiritual practice? Oh yeah, well, how'd you learn that? Where'd you learn that from? You know what I mean? And it's really good, before people start just lashing out, to really make sure you're educated on the subject matter. You know what I mean? So for example, third one that I'll talk about is the question I get, Native American flutes. People ask me, are you Native American? Well, again, I spend so much time around Native people. I do have indigenous blood. Taino is my people, right? And I have other people who are from the island of Boriquen. That's our roots word for the island of Puerto Rico. And we all have Taino heritage, and we're proud of it. And we, try to learn about it. And it was written in history books that the Taino people are an extinct race. But that was Columbus that wrote that in a book. But what he was basically saying was that we wiped them out, and they're all now Catholics. You know what I'm saying? And but the blood was still running through our veins, okay? And so, but still, you know what I mean? I never made that claim. I never tried to use that as a tool to say, I have the right to do this or that. Because at the end of the day, I feel like things have always been passed to me in a good, honorable, beautiful way. And anything that I've picked up or carried along the way, whether it was for my spiritual practice, for my flute business, I've done with integrity, with respect. I've gone in the trenches with the people, so to speak. You know what I mean? I'm not like, here, oh yeah, I'll pay you this much to learn your thing, and I'm just going to go take this, and I'm going to go, you know, never look back. And you know what I mean? There's a give and take to a thing. You know what I mean? And maybe if you're practicing a certain culture, maybe you spend some time with those people. Maybe you travel to their homeland. Maybe you find people here in America that practice that thing and learn from people who, you know, will give you their blessing. Because at the end of the day, anything that I've learned that I do, I've been given the blessing to do so. You know what I'm saying? So that makes a big difference. You know, that makes a big difference. And so, you know, those are some things. Those are some things. And again, back to educating, you know, people don't even realize, like, they might start getting on this big old thing about the Native American flute or whatever, and then they might not realize that the very first quote unquote Native American flute was made by Michael Graham Allen. And don't get me wrong, because this can get political, right? Michael Graham Allen is the one who decided to use the sound configuration of the way that traditional Native American instruments were made, but he put the pentatonic minor tuning on it. And then, guess what? A native guy, Carlos Nakai, made that scale popular, right? And I was young. This happened in the 80s. I was alive when this was all going down. And Ken Light Flutes, he's still around there. You could look him up. He was the one that got that pentatonic minor with the flat six, the 6-hole Native American style flute in the mainstream media. And it was Carlos Nakai's music that got it in the Native American stream, or the Native American scene, right? But you could ask Carlos, you could ask these people, that wasn't a Native American tuning. That wasn't a Native American tuning. And here we have people that aren't educated that want to police other people saying, Native American flute, are you Native? What are you doing making that flute? But the origination of that, I think it's a little weird that it adopted that name. I think it's a little bit weird that it adopted that name. And one of my elders, Kevin Locke, I mention him a lot or quite often on videos. He actually passed away a couple of months ago, and I'm going to do some more videos honoring him too. But he was big on that. He's the one who is an indigenous. He is a Lakota elder. He was a great human and spokesperson for his people, you know. And he was the one that told me that. He's like, that was made by Michael Graham Allen. That's not even a traditional flute. You know what I mean? I don't care that they call it Native American flute, but that's not our flute. And then he would proceed to educate me on what he now calls the North American indigenous flute. And he grew up from that from the 1800s, 1900s. It's a totally different flute, a totally different tuning. But here we have people who, you know, have a trigger. That's cultural appropriating. And they immediately go to this thing with an assumption to say, you know, hey, what are you doing? You don't have the right to do that, or you're not this, or man, I will slash you because, you know, whatever. You know what I mean? And like I said, I have actually not had a lot of that. I get it here and there. You get a little hater here and there. But at the end of the day, which addressing a lot of you guys who are pursuing a spiritual culture, who might have a practice, you're trying to develop something to share with the world. You know what I mean? It's a very popular thing right now to, you know, I guess a lot of people are trying to create businesses or a livelihood out of different spiritual practices that they want to share. Sound healing is a big one. There's a ton of Middle Eastern practices intermixed with that oftentimes. No matter where you go, and the bigger that you are, you have to prepare yourself. And it's one of the most uncomfortable things I feel like a human can go through, is to feel hatred coming at you when you're trying to do your best and just share yourself with the world, and you're sincere about what you're doing, and then you come back with someone being a hater at you or judging you for what you're doing. I would say that it would be near impossible to protect yourself from that fully. You can try to do everything right. You can listen to all the different people, and you're likely to find out that you're not going to please everybody. Someone's going to be upset with what you're doing. And anybody who steps forward in, their light and in who they are, someone might judge it or question it. And that's hard for us, because here we are on a healing path. We're trying to heal. We're sensitive. We're learning to open our hearts. And then we get someone that just likes to go. And you know what? We always have to remember that comes from somebody else who is in pain. And so one of the things that we as a people need to know how to learn to do is not take it so personally when someone says something. You know what I mean? And again, I can be defensive and I want to argue back sometimes and kind of educate people or whatever. But I think the best thing that we can do is stand in our own integrity. We have to be happy with who we are. And if someone is displeased with that, I don't know what to say other than, I'm sorry you feel that way. Sorry you feel that way. I mean, one of the first things I learned about Native things is the Great Spirit didn't give this to just us. This was given to all people. This was given to all people. This was given to all people. We have to remember those things. And again, doesn't mean we say, hey, thanks, take it, and we're benefiting our lives and we're doing all this thing and life is honky-dory and we have no comprehension of where this came from and how those people are living and how they're affected and how it might be hard for them to know that we're benefiting from something that they were told that they couldn't do and was stripped from them. That's touchy, man. And so, maybe there's some things that you need to do to show up. Maybe put yourself in an uncomfortable position. Show up. Go to a place. Ask questions. Go to a ceremony where it's not just, all white people doing an indigenous ceremony. Or one person, and you know what I'm saying? I mean, that again goes back to, I think I said that, respect is earned in a lot of minority cultures. In a lot of minority cultures, respect isn't freely given, it is earned. And one of the ways you earn that, and you don't want people, and then you want to show somebody that, hey man, I do this with respect. I do this, you know what I mean, with honor. One of the ways you do that is you show up to them. You know what I'm saying? You show up to them and say, hey, man, I'm doing this thing. I've been involved in this thing. I'm interested, and, see what they have to say. Hey, man, I'd love to come to something that y'all are doing if you'd have me. You know what I mean? Right there, that's when that respect starts being earned. You know what I mean? And it could take years. You know what I mean? I spent 15, 18, it's now 22 years going back to, maybe not 22, but up there. Over 20 years now going back to the Turtle Mountain Reservation. They were nice to me right off the bat, but I wouldn't say my respect was earned. It took probably 6+ years. I mean, fully. And you know what? I actually took a break, and after COVID and all this stuff, and I think getting remarried and all these things, I didn't go back for a while. I didn't even realize, I think it was 6 or 7 years. It just flew by. And I really, man, I didn't know how it was going to be. And I would say I almost forgot. And this summer I went there, and there's a YouTube video you can see. And I was like overwhelmed with overwhelmed with how much family I have there and how loved and respected I am there. And, you know, on one hand, it's like it's their thing. And I'll be the first to say, hey, man, this is your thing. I just want to be here to help, man. This is your thing. You know what I mean? And I'm blessed that I can benefit from it. But then what they're saying is, Miguel, we need your help, man. Help us with this, you know, help us with this, you know, share your songs with us, you know, all these things. Share your teachings with us. Do that dance that you do, you know, all of these things. And super humbling, super honor. I feel so touched and proud of that family. And in a sense, it's like I feel, what do you call it? Displaced in a sense from my own family, which that's a longer story because I have a close family, but in the grand scheme of things, you know, a little bit displaced. And that's the closest thing that I found that reminds me of who I am, is these people over here on the res, over here in the Turtle Mountains. And so what a blessing, what an honor. I feel so lucky. Anyhow, I could go on and on and on. Maybe I'll do a part 2 of this, and I don't even know what in the heck I said, so it's going to be hard to follow up, but I hope you got something from it. I'm going to just play a little bit of music here. We have this handpan going. I'm going to turn it back up a little, and I'll play a little flute with it. And I hope your day is blessed. I hope you got something positive from these words that I'm saying. And again, be who you are, you know, and that whoever that you are comes from all 4 corners of the earth, okay? It comes from all 4 corners of the earth. And when you're being who you are, do it with humility, do it with respect, do it with love, and do your best to have love and acceptance and understanding of people. Try to have understanding before you have judgment, okay? All right.